Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. It's Angela Ost and Avery Coleman from Cornerstone's Plan Giving team. And today we are extra excited because we have our colleague, Steve Link, joining us. Steve, how are you today?
I'm great. How are you, Angela?
Wonderful. Looking forward to our conversation. Before we get started, Steve, though, I really just wanted to provide everybody with a little bit of background on you. So for those of you who don't know, Steve actually started his career in public accounting. He has been the director of plan giving at both Georgetown and Lehigh University. And he was also the assistant treasurer at Lehigh University, where he oversaw the plan giving and endowment assets. Most currently, Steve is Cornerstone's Director of Philanthropic Services, and Avery and I have had the pleasure of working with him over the past couple of years. Because of Steve's extensive background, we thought it would just be really interesting to bring him on and have a discussion from the perspective of a fundraiser, since he does have so much experience. This video is going to be broken out into two parts. So this is part one. And with that, Steve and Avery, let's get started.
Great.
All right, Steve, the first question that we get asked, and you have a lot of experience in this area, but from a fundraising perspective, or from a fundraiser actually, how do you target a group of donors? And let's specifically talk about marketing about charitable gift annuities, just since that's what the majority of the individuals listening today might be interested in.
Sure. So identifying who is going to be most likely to be interested in a gift annuity, a form of life income, it's important to kind of consider a couple of key indicators. And Robert Sharp, who's a long and well-known consultant in the area of plan giving, references frequency, longevity, age, and gender. So FLAG, if you're looking for an acronym to remember it by. People who will set up a gift annuity tend to be people who've given to your organization for a long period of time. And so I look at consistency of giving. I look at age. Gift annuities tend to be most appealing to those who are age 65 or over because they're looking for additional income. This isn't really necessarily a vehicle for people who are very wealthy, have a significant amount of income already coming in, but it might be. Your sweet spot is somebody who is concerned that they can't really give you the principal outright and give up the income off of that principal, or they're just not sure what the future is going to hold. And so this is a nice stair step into giving a bigger gift than they would give in the annual fund solicitation. So those are my primary areas. Then you'll hear people say, gosh, I would love to give, but I'm helping a parent or I'm helping one of my offspring, and I provide them with monthly resources. Well, those are after-tax dollars that they are giving to those individuals. They've already been taxed for income. And a gift annuity is a great way to provide additional resources to somebody you're already supporting if you have a philanthropic intent. There are some cautionary things there, and I don't know whether you want me to say this now or later, but if you set up a gift annuity for anyone other than yourself and your spouse, there are gift tax implications. So the example I just gave you of providing for parents or providing for offspring or other loved ones, you just have to be cognizant of the tax consequences.
Sure.
Well, I know the group of people who are not sure about the future is pretty large at any given time, and especially now. So that's a pretty good thing to look out for. I'm sure oftentimes, Steve, that you go into a donor meeting thinking that you'll be discussing a certain type of gift type, but then you'll need to pivot depending on like feedback that you're getting from your donor. How do you transition? How do you know when a CGA is the right gift to discuss, or maybe you need to move on to something different?
So most fundraisers will say the first gift they're asking for is an outright gift. It's not necessarily the life income gift. So if I'm having a conversation with a donor and I hear the indications that they are very committed to the mission of the organization, but, and then you have one of these reasons that is holding them back from making a commitment, that's where a gift annuity can be very appealing. If we get into the conversation on the gift annuity and they're like, it's not a matter of income. I'm at the point now where I'm having to take out my required minimum distribution and I don't want any more income because it's bumping me up into a higher tax bracket, then I will pivot to having a conversation about giving a qualified charitable donation directly from the tax disadvantaged retirement assets to charity. There's no tax deduction for the donor, but they're having the same impact on the organization and they're not pulling additional income into their income for taxation purposes. It also helps them avoid negative impacts on taxation of their Social Security and the Medicare. Other pivots, people are ready at different times to make a big gift. And so it may be that, we're having a cash gift conversation and that is clear that that's not where they are mentally, psychologically. And then the life income turns out not to be appealing either. There's the bequest. And, that is the ultimate legacy gift that most people give. It's at the end of life when they've taken care of themselves and taken care of their spouse. And it is typically the single largest gift an individual will make. So I kind of do them in that progression. And once they get to the point of committing to a bequest, they might very well come back to, gosh, I'd actually like to see a little of the impact of that bequest during my lifetime. So maybe I'll step up my outright giving to a certain extent. I'm not giving you the whole principal, but I'll give you some seed money to start doing the things we're talking about because I want to make sure it's going to work.
So you mentioned income and kind of tax situations and wanting to see your money at work during your life. Are there any other key phrases or kind of just things that you notice that donors will say that would trigger you to discuss a CGA?
The big ones really are, I'd love to give you the principal, but I use the income. I'd love to make this gift, but I'm just not sure what our healthcare needs are going to be. It's really this reluctance. There's a desire to be helpful. There's a commitment to the organization or the mission, but there's something holding them back. And sometimes, Avery, it's none of the things I just said. It's they're worried about an offspring or they're worried about someone else they care very deeply about. And until they can resolve that issue, it's going to present an obstacle to moving forward with the gift. And so many times the conversations are listening and helping them see that a gift annuity or another vehicle can be helpful in addressing this other concern that they have. So if they have, for instance, an offspring that is a spendthrift, having something come out in a life income vehicle means that there's a constant stream of income coming to them, not so much hopefully that they will go off the deep end, but it's helpful and they know that source of income will be there. That's not going to be, the principal is not going to be spent down. Is that helpful?
Yeah, that actually gives us a lot to work from.
Great.
And Steve, what about somebody that has a significant amount of appreciated securities? Is that maybe a key word?
That is totally a great thing to be listening for, particularly if they say, I got in really early on this stock, you name it, whether it's Apple or Microsoft or one of the techs that have exploded in their price to earnings ratio. But they're loath to liquidate that stock because they're going to pay a 20% or higher capital gain tax on it. So they're going to lose a fifth of their money at a minimum. One way is to simply contribute this highly appreciated security. You're getting a tax deduction based on the full fair market value. A side note, if people listening to this are not aware, you don't get 100% donation charitable deduction for gifts to life income vehicles like charitable gift annuities because you're getting something back in return. So the most recent gift annuities I was looking at, there was roughly a 50-50 split. So, 50% you got tax deduction for 50% of the fair market value that was going in, with the recognition that what you are retaining in terms of that future payment stream is roughly 50%. So
Perfect.
yes, appreciated assets are a great clue to be listening for, particularly if they have one stock that's gotten disproportionate to their other holdings and they want to trim it without paying a big chunk of tax.
Sure. So you mentioned a few cautionary tales throughout the conversation so far. What are some other challenges that maybe you haven't touched on that you've experienced for when discussing charitable gift annuities with potential donors?
You can't get the money back. This is not an investment. You are making an investment in the organization. You want to look at the organization and make sure they are financially stable, because a gift annuity is backed by the assets of the organization. So you want an organization that's been in business, been working for an extended period of time, that you know will be there not just next year, but 10 and 20 years down the road. So you're still getting your distribution. Other factors to keep in mind, in addition to not getting the principal back, you'll get this payment stream. The type of income you get will vary depending upon what you give to put into creating that gift annuity. So in the instance you just asked me about appreciated securities, a portion of the income that you get back will be capital gain income. So the IRS splits the capital gain, and a portion's part of it over your lifetime, and part of it goes with the value of the charitable gift. So while you do pay some capital gain on it, it's spread out over your lifetime. And it may be that the capital gain tax rate is actually lower for you than the ordinary income tax rate. When you reach your life expectancy, and there are mortality tables where none of us make it out alive, once you reach your life expectancy, then all of the payouts after that point are ordinary income, and you pay ordinary income tax on it. But the hope is that by the time you're at that point, you're not at your peak earning years, and so the tax rate will hopefully be lower than the capital gain rate.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
And Steve, thank you so much. Those are just a couple of the questions that Avery and I get asked that we thought would be fun to just throw out to you from a fundraiser perspective. We appreciate all of your insight on these topics. That wraps up part 1 of this video, but we hope everyone can join us for part 2, where we'll be role-playing a discussion between a fundraiser and a donor. So thank you all for joining us.